Hi, my name's Jaime. I'm an Aboriginal peer support worker at Headspace, Adelaide. I'd like to acknowledge that the land we operate from and are meeting on right now is the land of the Kaurna people. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and future, and acknowledge Headspace's commitment to making a positive contribution to young people who are Aboriginal.
Hello and welcome back to Headspace Sessions podcast for another really exciting episode. Once again, I am joined by a wonderful crew of co-hosts. My name's Ali, and shall we hear from who's joining us today?
I'm Jaime.
I'm Beth.
I'm Santi.
I'm Benjamin.
Full crew today, minus our script developer for this episode, Adam. But we know he's listening somewhere. And we're really thankful. We're really thankful for him writing this very special episode for us today. We're going to be chatting all things neurodiversity. This episode is going to be adjacent to a really informative episode that comes next. But today we're going to get a bit vulnerable. We're going to get a bit raw. We're going to talk about our own personal experiences with neurodivergence and what it means for us. Before we get into all of that good content, though, we once again have an awesome icebreaker. And this one, it's pretty fun. And it's what's something your brain does that makes you laugh, maybe roll your eyes, or just go, classic me.
I always used to laugh about my sister telling Jess stories. Her name's Jess. And they would be stories.
Jess stories?
Like Jess telling Jess stories. So
I
thought
you said chess.
No, Jess.
I'm like, that's funny.
Her stories, they would just go on, and you would never get to the point, right? And then it would take like 3 different roads and all these different laneways, and like it was a Jess story, like, you know, and everyone in our family would laugh about it. And then I realised that I do it too. And I was like,
Beth stories.
I was like, oh, I've been blaming her for this and I get annoyed at her for it, but I do the exact same thing.
Peak modelling there.
Oh, that just somehow reminded me of the one I hate the most, I think. So when I play games, like I tend to play on my Xbox, but I'm sitting on the couch and I always forget it happens until someone gently reminds me, but I pretty much almost do a running commentary of what I'm doing as if I'm like streaming, but I've never streamed in my life before. Like ever since I was a kid, there was an audience, but the audience isn't there. So it's like, it's so annoying. I can imagine it's like the most frustrating thing on the planet to be even near me when it's happening, because sometimes I just get so like involved in what I'm doing. I'm like, oh no, what's that guy doing? Like,
you don't do that during movies too, do you?
No. That's the thing that I think annoys me about it. When I'm in the movies, like especially in the cinema, I'm like, is that your phone? Are you checking your messages right now on the couch? But then it's like the second I'm playing games, I'm like, look at that guy over there. Isn't he funny? No one's listening. It's like, yeah.
That's fun.
I think for me, it's if we go into cinema and people just give me like so many questions. Like, while I'm watching the movie, I'm like, oh my God, just don't. I'll answer all your questions after the movie, but does not work for me.
No, you're in your zone.
Yeah.
I'm that person.
Oh,
sorry, Santi.
We're not going to the movies with you, Beth.
And also like shaking when they can't like sit still.
Yeah.
And they're right next to me and they're just like shaking the entire row. And it's like,
oh, you don't like other people shaking? I thought you meant yourself.
I'm fine. Like I'd sit and watch the movie.
Right.
I won't move at all.
Right.
It would just be one position.
Do you mean specifically shaking at the movies, or like just specifically at the movies, or is it just anyone next to you, like
specifically
me
at the
very
movies.
right now next to you?
Wow, yeah.
Specifically at the movies, because they're shaking the entire row, and
Well,
it's like the seats are also vibrating. Like, what's that happening? And I see the next person just shaking their leg. It's like, oh my God.
Oh, interesting grab. What about you, Jaime?
I think for me is something that my brain does is like I'll go to a social event and I will just like go, hi, like just go absolutely socially crazy. And then within about 10 minutes, I'm like, yeah, about time to go home now. I just wish I had the ability to spread out my social energy instead of just being like so excited to go, and then like social batteries dead in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And like even my friends have a running joke where it's like, Jaime, you can't say in 20 minutes that your social battery's dead. I'm like, yeah, okay. But yeah.
They've figured out your
No,
habit.
they have. What about you?
Mine is I've come to learn over my 25 incredible years of life that I can't write things down on like physical pieces of paper. As good as my intentions are, in an hour, whatever, I don't know where that piece of paper there is. It's just gone. It's literally evaporated into thin air. I can be like, yep, I really need to write this down. I really need to put it in a safe space. Where is that safe place? I have too many safe places. And then I'm like, but what safe place did I think I was putting it in at the time? And I just, I lose track of them. So I can't write things down. I need to put things in like my phone and have it in like a digital way, because otherwise I'm just going to forget about it. So it's really that like object permanence for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas I write like 5 lists over and over again.
Yeah.
Like consistently, I'll write a list that has all these that same thing on it. I'll like rip it out if it's one word wrong, and I'll like write it again. So sorry to all the trees. They are just being cut.
Oh,
out.
no, I get you. I have like 10 different notebooks for like just different topics of my life. So it's pretty bad. But yeah, that's mine. Thank you, everybody, for sharing fun little moments that our brain does. This leads really nicely into our first topic of the pod today, which is what neurodivergence means to us. You listening, you may have probably heard the word neurodivergence or neurodiversity or neurodivergent, however the word has come across to you in your life. You've probably heard about it a lot recently, perhaps at school, from people in your life, or perhaps online on TikTok and Instagram. But what does it actually mean? So neurodivergence can refer to the idea that some people's brains just function in ways that may be considered typical, or what we call neurotypical. So these differences can affect how a person thinks, learns, maybe processes new information, communicates, or just in general experiences the world that we live in. Simply put, everybody's brain works very differently. We all have a very different brain on this table. You guys listening probably have your own gripes that you came up with while we were chatting about ours. Some of us might hyper-focus for things on hours. Some of us might not be able to write things down on pieces of paper, whatever it might be. We're all different. And I think it's important to note it's not weird. It's just different. Neurodivergence can include things like autism, ADHD, dyslexia. There are so many different terms that fit under that umbrella. But basically, it is just a way of thinking or processing that doesn't fit that typical mold. I'm really eager to hear from you guys what your first experience with the term neurodivergence was. Maybe what you thought it meant at the time that you first heard of it, or maybe how you noticed it in yourself or showing up in others.
I feel like the first way I heard neurodivergence was only that autism is the only thing that can fall under it. So I think as I got older, it's been interesting to learn that people's brains work in all different ways, not just limited to that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think my first time sort of hearing about neurodivergence was honestly, I'd say it would be just before the sort of 2020s started. I think that the term to me was relatively new. I'd had what I would consider a decent understanding of, autism and ADHD and dyslexia, just either through, people I knew or my own understandings. But the actual term itself, I found I hadn't familiarized myself with it for quite a while. For me, seeing it in myself is a bit of a weird experience, because for me, I was only diagnosed in sort of like 2022, roughly 2023, maybe even. But I grew up with thinking a bunch of things were just either normal, or I just had a couple of quirks here and there. And then sort of I had enough different people in my life sort of emphasizing to me, hey, that's not how most people, go about that or perceive that. that's not, quite the same, not in like a negative way or anything, but then it sort of prompted me to actually look into it, because I think I didn't fit the very sort of stereotypical child sort of behavioral manifestations of neurodivergence, where you've got that stereotype that they're disruptive, or they're really loud and not listening to teachers in classroom sort of thing. I was very sort of enthusiastic at school and stuff like that, so I think I'd just gone under the radar for the typical stuff, and I think that's why it was a bit more complex for me, at least. Yeah.
I can relate to that in terms of my first kind of experience with the term was those extreme versions of what ADHD or autism can look like, or the really stigmatized versions. I think my first time that I heard about ADHD was, the disruptive little boys in class that couldn't focus or their behavior wasn't good, and that came to be what my understanding was of ADHD. So as I grew up and maybe I started noticing little things about myself, I was like, well, there's no way that I could possibly be ADHD or autistic, because I'm not disruptive like those little boys in class, or I don't have those same traits. So it took a lot of unlearning for me to personally be able to relate to that.
For me, it was when I first did my diploma in forensic psychology. But, there were times when terms like ADHD, autism was just thrown out. But, I just knew it as like a umbrella term rather than what it actually meant. In terms of my own experience, I wouldn't say I'm neurodivergent, but then I haven't been tested for it, but I'd say I'm hyperactive. I can't, even when I was a kid, I couldn't stay still. Like, parents would get teachers calling saying, hey, he can't stay still. Like, when I was in my younger years, even now, that's exactly why I do sports, is because I need to keep doing something. Even at work, I can't just stay still.
Yeah.
I need to keep walking. I need to move, do something. But yeah.
I love that you found an outlet for that. That you notice yourself having maybe more energy than other people do, and you're like, hey, well, let's put this energy somewhere. Let's go. I think
it's more my mum that sort of figured that out, because even now I just start shaking my leg. It's, even though I don't like it at cinemas.
I was like, wasn't that your gripe?
But that's in cinemas. But at a social setting, if I feel like, okay, it just comes on and just sitting still is not working for me. But yeah.
Well, shout out to Mum for noticing. I know you're watching.
Oh yeah, she is.
I think so. Neurodivergence, the word itself, and neurodiversity, I didn't really hear much of that until recently, in the recent years that I've been working with my psychologist in particular. Like, she's got pictures on her walls and stuff of different things, and a cloud that has neurodivergence, all the different sort of disorders that sit under that and stuff. And I think that's when I first kind of focused on the word neurodivergence. But I think I've always been aware of ADHD, autism, and all of those things. I went to a small country primary school, and we had very noticeably affected individuals with autism, and it was quite obvious, and they would have extra support and stuff in class as well. ADHD was one of those things that was like the hyperactive boys. I never really heard of any females as I was growing up having it. That was not something that was ever, talked about, noticed. For me, I always felt different, and I always felt like something wasn't quite right. And it took a long time for me to get assistance with that. And I think once I did, I then found out, okay, well, I've heard of now this term, neurodivergence. Oh, that makes so much more sense.
Affirming for you.
It was affirming.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. There's obviously so much that we've heard about neurodivergence and our own experiences of what that meant to us the first time we came across it. What's one thing, maybe in particular, one myth that we've heard about neurodiversity that maybe doesn't sit with us very well? And I can think of a million in my mind, and I see so many of you nodding. Ben, what's on your mind?
I think the one that sort of really gets on my nerves, because it's not a myth per se, but it's just a misunderstanding of like savant syndrome, where it's sort of like there's this perception that every neurodivergent person is going to be like brilliant at something. And it's sort of like, you know, you've got like shows like The Good Doctor and stuff like that, where it's like, you know, it's just every representation of neurodiversity in a lot of sort of media is like, you know, Sheldon Cooper type thing, where it's like, you know, absolutely brilliant, like astrophysicist sort of thing, where it's, and yes, there are going to be things that neurodiverse people are really good at, but it's not that, you know, every neurodivergent person you meet is just like this hidden genius that's really socially weird sort of thing, because I think that's the general perception of it, where it's sort of a lot less stable is probably the way I'd word it, in terms of how you'd actually live with neurodivergence in your everyday life compared to the way it's presented. Yeah.
I think for me, it's particularly with ADHD, mainly because it's like personal, but being a female, no one ever talks about how that is. And even just in general, they usually focus on the impulsivity and the hyperactivity of like a young boy or things like that. Whereas you can be high masking. Females, like the symptoms are, I didn't believe my sister when she mentioned that, oh, Beth, you know, maybe you have ADHD, like maybe that's something that's going on for you. And I was like, no, really? And then I thought about it obsessively. I was hyper-focused on it, and I was like, oh my God, ADHD isn't what I actually imagined it was, because that's just not what I grew up thinking it was. And it's actually like a whole nother level. It's not just about those superficial things that people see most of the time.
Yeah. I think what comes to mind for me is this rhetoric that the media and society have at the moment, and it's very prevalent at the moment, in response to the increase in diagnoses, especially ADHD and autism that we're seeing. Their response is, oh my God, everybody just has ADHD and autism now. And I think, that statement is devaluing any individual's experience of pursuing a diagnosis and going through that process. And two, I think we are living in a world at the moment, very complex world, but we have so much more understanding and information and resources and technology available to us now, that a lot of those people that maybe slipped through the cracks earlier in their childhood are finally now being seen and finally now have access to that information that makes them think, oh, maybe like I don't fit that typical mold and maybe I should look into this diagnosis. And I think rather than society's response to that being, oh my God, everybody just has this now, and this is a quote from one of my favorite books by Ellie Middleton, Unmasked, and she says, you know, rather than that response, we should be thinking that, oh my God, how did we let these people go without support for so long? And I think that's really an important reflection on this topic, and one that I really gravitate to.
I've always hated that.
Yeah.
People just function differently.
Yeah.
And there isn't a normal.
And yeah, sorry if I'm throwing a wrench in the works here. It might be not the greatest topic for discussion, I suppose. I might be a little out of date with sort of current research, but it's sort of indicated, as far as I'm aware, the most recent statistic is if like a parent is neurodivergent, there's like a 50% chance of their child being neurodivergent. So it's almost sort of, there quite possibly could be a literal increase in the prevalence of neurodivergence, because that's a pretty big, like it's a literal coin toss whether someone's child will sort of live with neurodivergence, if that study is correct and up to date. Like I said, it's been a while since I looked into the information again, but I think that just sort of goes to show it's going to be less and less of a divergent trait over time, just by sheer, probability. So I think it's really good to sort of almost frame it as different ways of thinking, not in the sense that it's different from the norm, but it's just that uniquely distinct to a person's individual context where, we've discussed it in the same room, and obviously everyone refers to neurodivergence on like a spectrum. And the reason it's on a spectrum is because you can put two autistic or two people with sort of ADHD next to each other, and they could have completely different experiences and ways of sort of perceiving the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very important reflection. Yeah. So we talked about what it maybe is like for us personally, or the ways that we've noticed in others having a brain that just works differently from that norm in society. But I think what also doesn't get mentioned enough is how often people feel pressure to hide it. And that's where the term masking comes in. You may have heard of the term masking, or you may have not, but essentially it's like putting on an invisible costume just to fit in with the normal or fit in with society, even if it means hiding parts of you that you really enjoy or that make you feel the most yourself. Examples of masking can maybe include mirroring other people's behavior, because that is maybe something that is the norm and you want to replicate the things that they're doing to fit in, even if it doesn't come naturally to you, or maybe forcing yourself to make eye contact. I know a lot of people just naturally feel comfortable giving eye contact, but maybe to you that isn't something that feels super comfortable, but you're forcing yourself to do it just to fit in and feel normal. There's so many different examples of what masking can look like in people. Have we ever noticed ourselves, or maybe noticed it in others, them masking or ourselves masking? And if so, why do we think that happens for people?
I probably spent my entire childhood and at high school masking. I learnt very quickly that I didn't feel quite right, and that I felt that I was different. And then especially when and I could deal with that, and I could probably show my true colours a bit more in primary school. But then when I went to high school, it felt like I was very different because there was a lot of other people. And I did end up being bullied quite badly for some of the things that I would do. So another part of neurodivergence is obsessive compulsive disorder. And I was dealing with that quite a lot through my childhood, and then as a teenager growing up, and everyone could see my compulsions. Everyone could see all of those things, and they would pick on me for them. I would then hide that. So I basically forced myself to not show any of that, still not acknowledging that I had OCD until I was a young adult and past that stage. But it was more so just out of safety. You don't, and even in this day and age, with social media and just friends in general, no one wants to be different. And when you feel like that, you try your best to try and fit in, that's always been quite a big thing, I think, in society.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I wrote it here on my notes, I feel like it's like that 24/7 customer service. You're always putting on this costume or this cloak and putting on maybe a different persona, because you know that maybe is more socially acceptable or it'll make you appear cooler. And I have a very complex journey with masking, and it's one that I haven't reached the end of. My journey is very new and early. I'm only just kind of navigating what my identity is in this neurodivergent space. But one thing I know for sure is I've always been a high masker, but I think what I really struggle with is I don't know what's normal and what's masking anymore. It's just become such a habit for me. It's become this 24/7 identity that I don't know when I'm masking or when I'm is this something that I actually do enjoy, or is this how I actually communicate with people, or it's really complex for me. The only time I can really feel or acknowledge that maybe I have been masking is maybe when I get in my car after socializing or get home, and it really literally feels like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders or a wall has dropped. Like, it's a physical feeling of relief, like I'm safe, or I can be me, or I can sing Taylor Swift as much as I want to now. Like, I can really hone in on my special interests and not be fearful of how that would be perceived in society. So, yeah, I wish I understood masking a little bit more, but it's very complex for me.
I feel like that's very relatable for me. Like, when I saw my psychologist recently, she was like, no, like, I'm so organized. I can keep it all together. And she's like, that's like literally a form of masking. Like, you've just got strategies in place to compensate. And I feel like I've now sort of been just noting things. And it's like I was saying earlier about socializing. It's like I'll go somewhere and my mum's like, you're going to be so tired when you get back, because she just knows that I'm going to go there, just almost like put on a big performance.
Yeah.
And then by the time I get back, I'm like so drained. Mm-hmm. And it really happens every time. And I always just thought, no, I love socializing. But then I'm like, okay, that I do. And I do love socializing. I love seeing my friends. But then I'm just like, but is it normal to feel so exhausted after like a 1 hour catch up? Like, my friend will just want to, Murphy, if you're listening, will just want to hang out for like hours and hours, because he has it like the biggest social battery I've ever seen, whereas he'll be around for like an hour and I'm like, okay, Miff, time to get out.
I'm glad that you feel safe to be able to say that.
That's the other thing that I think I'm really lucky in. You know, through high school, maybe I was a little bit more nervous. I've really met my people in uni, and I think that's because we all do psychology, so we all sort of understand each other, and like my partner and everything. I feel safe to be myself, and I find myself avoiding people who make me feel small and make me feel like I can't be myself, because there are certainly people who I'm like, oh, you're cooler than me, and I don't know how I can like fit in with you, and I don't know if I even have the capacity to mask enough to fit in with you. So I think I'm just lucky that I've found people who just let me be myself, let me have my little like temper tantrums when we're on a holiday together and I'm overwhelmed. Like, they're just, it's good. So I'm lucky.
I think masking has been an interesting thing to explore for me, because there's part of it that's like a very unconscious thing, and then there's another part that I guess I would consider conscious. To very briefly contextualize, when I was diagnosed with ADHD, the psychiatrist sort of also said, like, hey, you are displaying several indicators of autism spectrum disorder as well, but you're too high functioning to bother with a diagnosis for it because you wouldn't get any help. I think the term high functioning warrants discussion in itself, so I won't go into that there. But I found when I started, actually being able to have my prescribed ADHD medication, it helped alleviate some of the impactful symptoms of my ADHD, but it also made it quite apparent that I was masking the ADHD symptoms quite well, but I hadn't touched on anything that was impacting me from sort of autism symptoms, and they became a lot harder to mask all of a sudden, because it was something that I would argue I'd been unconsciously doing the entire time, but suddenly my priorities for what was and wasn't appropriate had shifted and pivoted all of a sudden. And I think that was a very interesting thing. But I think growing up as a kid, I was very focused on trying to make sure people were comfortable around me. Yeah. And I think in my child mind, I sort of saw how much people gravitated towards, characters they care about in books and TV shows and movies, and the fact that there was a level of predictability to their behavior. Like, you could almost anticipate how a character was going to respond to something in that. So I think when I was younger, I almost, even if I had a bit of a more nuanced response internally to something, I would almost ham up the predictability of that behavior and set up a little bit of a predictable pattern in what people could expect from me, so that they felt more comfortable about it. And then I'd just keep a bit quiet if my behavior was a bit unexpected in terms of my perception of it. Yeah.
Oh, the joys of masking. Yes. Are there any ways that we personally de-mask, or maybe strategies that we've noticed for others to utilize?
I fidget,
Mm-hmm.
and I've tried to let myself, it took a lot of practice to be okay. Like, okay, yes, Beth, it is okay to fidget. It is okay to play with things when you're having conversations with people. Like, that's fine. So I think that just helps me self-regulate, at least, while I am, you know, so that I'm still doing something. But dropping the mask, I mean, I feel like for me, that was work with a psychologist and working quite a lot with that alongside medication.
Yeah. I find that, and like I said, it's still a journey. I'm very open to hearing other people's strategies if they have any. But one thing that really helps me, and I think it's actually quite common, they say that neurodivergent people tend to gravitate towards each other quite naturally. And I have found that to be very apparent in my adult life. I'm like, oh, you're also, oh, that makes sense. So it's been really nice that when I am feeling really socially burnt out, those are the people that I gravitate towards and I feel most comfortable with. And it was kind of jumping on what you were saying, Jaime, around I really lean into those relationships and people who have their own personal experiences with being neurodivergent, because I feel so comfortable and I feel like I can talk about my special interests for a long period of time. Or if I'm really afflicted by decision paralysis, I'm like, no, you just make a decision. And they're like, no, you just make a decision. And it's just like bouncing off of each other. And it's just like, oh, we're both, you know, we get it. It's fine. There's just that shared mutual understanding. And also, in addition to that, is when, you know, I do get in my car or get home after socializing, I'm like, okay, I'm really going to jump onto the things that I really enjoy doing and those fixations at the moment, or those special interests, because that's where I feel most myself and that's where I feel safe. So it's maybe watching something that I've been really fixated on lately, or going down a research rabbit hole, or listening to the same song over and over again and not feeling like, oh, that person's going to be annoyed if I listen to the song 13 times in a row. Like that's where I feel just my most comfortable and feel that wall just naturally drop for me.
I think, again, my answer's a bit similar to my last one in that I'm just like really lucky with the people around me. And so often I'm just honest. I'm like, guys, it's getting a little bit too much for me. I'm putting my AirPods in. Or like often when we're going away, they'll all play board games and I'll engage throughout one game and then I'll be like, okay, I'm just going to lay back here and half listen. Like I just I need just a space like for myself to just be able to step back and just watch and be in the environment but not directly engaged, which is why I always gravitate towards group situations because I love not having the pressure of like staying engaged the whole time, because I find that long things always wear me out. And then just being able to sort of picking the people that make me feel like I can be myself, and then also allowing myself to have as much alone time as I need. Yeah. So yeah.
Parallel play, I feel like, is what the term came to mind. It's something me and my housemate do all the time, me and my best friend do.
Oh yeah, totally.
We'll like an hour of an activity and then we'll just like look at each other, and that look is like, we know. Let's just sit on our beds and listen to TikToks.
No, literally, my friend messaged me. She's like, I was like, I'm coming over, but I'm so grumpy right now. She's like, we'll just watch TikTok together. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'll come over then.
Like, I love being in your presence, and that to me feels like we're hanging out, but I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, pretty much.
For me, it's once I click with a person or a group, it's I can just bring down that wall. And it's kind of good as well, because most of the time I'm my weird self. I usually I don't care what people think.
Yeah. Good mentality.
I'm just going to be me.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, like if I feel like my social battery is down, come home, start like get into a good book or just watch a TV show that I'm really into. But otherwise, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think what I'm probably going to say is very reminiscent of what you've already expressed in some capacity. Like obviously, Santi, you just said being yourself, and Ali, you were talking about, you know, the weight coming off of your shoulders when you finally got to sit in your car or just get home. And I think masking, in my opinion, is almost like a bit of a subconscious rejection of the self in a way, where it's sort of like you're trying so hard to do what you feel is the norm and blend in, and you're using so much energy doing it. And I think for me, what's really helped is sort of practicing that self-acceptance and authenticity, because I sort of noticed around me, it was thanks to my partner actually, she pretty much says immediately what's on her mind and what she's thinking. And I mean, everyone, like she's like a capybara person, like everybody gets along with her, everybody loves her. But I noticed even though she'd sometimes be like incredibly blunt with what she was thinking and what she was saying, people want to hear her opinion, and they actually like, you know, want to hear her advice, and they appreciate her bluntness because they know that she's not going to beat around the bush or try and like protect their feelings about it. She's just going to tell them the way it is. And I think for me, as someone who is a bit of a beat around the bush, protect feelings kind of person, seeing that people were fully accepting of that trait, that I would be a bit afraid to be like myself, I sort of just started trying to almost communicate things that would be a little bit quirky or strange, but sort of just more in a like, hey, giving you a heads up way. Like I'm a horrible texter. I'm horrible at text correspondence and social media. I'm basically, if you message me, you can expect a response to come in a few days to a week, because I basically message by carrier pigeon. And I used to try so hard to promptly respond to everyone that was communicating with me within minutes. And then it just got so exhausting. And now it's like, I may take a few days to respond. It's not that I dislike you. It's not that I'm upset with you in any way. It's just the way I am. And, you know, I found that's a lot healthier in terms of interacting with people I care about and people I know, because they know that our relationship is fine. It's just that I'm bad at texting. And I think, you know, people are a lot more accepting of those differences and those quirks than I think we sort of internally perceive, because we've got this baseline perception of normal that we're trying to adhere to. But it's sort of the same example of like, how often do you notice specific things about other people compared to yourself, right? And that applies to everyone. So I find that really helps me, but it is a conscious effort, yeah.
It does, and it takes like a lot of time to learn how to shift that feeling of shame and guilt that you have in response to, like I'm a bad texter or I'm a bad friend because I can't respond as quickly as other people. Or something that I would always say to myself is, I'm just so lazy. Like, how can I not do the things that seem so mundane to people, like responding quickly to my friend, or being able to just like put my clothes away, or just like wash that dish, or, you know, just like very mundane things. And it's taken a long time to shift that into, I'm not lazy. My brain just is literally wired differently. And yeah, it's a journey. So I completely relate to that. And I love that you kind of mentioned with your partner, and I think this leads really nicely into our final topic of this podcast about neurodivergent superpowers. And I was almost thinking when you were saying that that sounds like her superpower, like just being able to tell it how it is and respond really honestly and bluntly, and the right people will respond to her, and those are her people. Yeah. And I think a lot of the discussion around neurodivergence at the moment, it's focusing on the deficits of neurodivergence, or all of the bad things or the difficult things that happen in everyday life. And while those do have merit and they do impact people, I think it's really important that we highlight the incredible strengths that come along with neurodivergent ways of thinking. So this is our opportunity to flip the script right here. I want to know what you think some of your neurodivergent superpowers are, or the superpowers that you've noticed in other people, or maybe the strengths. I don't know. I'd love to hear from you guys first, because I'm like, I don't know where to start. It's that thing where our brain's just naturally kind of wired to think about all the deficits or the difficult things. So I need a minute with this one, but I'm keen to hear what you guys have to say.
Well, again, I don't know if this technically is my neurodivergence or my masking. So I don't know, it gets a little bit like mixed together. Yeah. But I do think that I am really full of energy, which I think allows me to be like a really welcoming person and really make people feel welcome and invited to things. And I think that's nice.
I love that. Well, you very much are that person. Whether it's masking or not.
Yeah. It's within me still.
Trait. Yeah, it's you.
No, exactly.
I think in other people, I've actually got I've got a mate who's brilliant at Rubik's cubes. He starts off with you sort of like 3x3 by 3 sort of Rubik's cube, but I saw him once get like a star-shaped Rubik's cube that has like 5 things per segment, and he can just like solve it in like 10 to 30 seconds, and it's I'm like, how? But I think for me it's sort of like this, like I'd call it like a silver lining superpower, but because the way at least I experience ADHD is my train of focus is quite literally like a train, and it's moving at all times, but I have to almost jump on the moving train, and it could arrive anywhere between 12 p.m. in the middle of the day and 11 p.m. at night, and I can't control when that train comes along, but if I can catch the train, I can focus on something really efficiently. So it means, in terms of uni, that means that unfortunately my best strategy for assignments is all-nighters in one go rather than at a time and well managed. But on the flip side, that means I only have to worry about that assignment for one night. And I think as well, it's sort of built up my willpower over time. And I think, especially with physical activities, the only thing that sort of stops me from completing that physical activity, even if it's really taxing and really difficult, is if I were to give up on it. So, as a little bit of a game, sort of, I went to a friend's wedding recently, and they jokingly said they were excited to see me dance. And so I was like, oh, that's my assignment. I'm going to dance and keep the dance floor alive for the rest of the guests for as long as I can. And I ended up dancing for 4 hours straight. Because it was sort of this thing where even though it can be physically taxing for me, I think because I want to, I sort of can in a weird way. Yeah.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
I think for me, I remember everything. Conversations, dates, events.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I see how it is. Like there's no filter. Like if you're gonna do something and then say something else, I'm just gonna call you out on it. Yes, it's a bad habit, but most of the time I think my main superpower is just remembering things. Like
love that.
In a conversation, it's like, no, this happened. Nope. This is how it happened. It's specifically like
actually, let me pull up my thing of evidence right here.
Yeah. Like I have stuff to back it up as well.
Yeah.
So it's just remembering. It does become a pain as well.
No, it's super powerful. We're flipping the script.
Very good. I have a few things, but I think my main one is my insane empathetic drive. And like my emotions. I think one thing for me, like with my ADHD, is that I feel such strong emotions. It's like a whole body experience. Yeah. Whether that's I'm excited about something and it feels like there is fire in my bones, or whether that is like I am upset about something or angry, like it's like a whole body sensation. And I think with my empathy as well, like I'm a very empathetic person and I always have been, and I didn't quite understand that when I was a teenager and it was quite overwhelming. But now it means that I can just connect with people, and especially like when you surround yourself with other neurodivergent people and people that like you can just click and you connect, and it's amazing. And then also just being so passionate. Like I'm so passionate about advocacy and I'm so passionate about like so much love to give. If, I don't know, it's like it's all feelings.
Yeah, no,
feelings.
That's so nice.
I get that. I think like I'm going to jump on your bandwagon about, just feeling things. And it's something that I hear from a lot of my friends actually. And it often comes as like a deficit of like, oh, I wish I just like didn't feel the way that I did as much as as often as I did. Or why am I like constantly still thinking about this thing? Like as if it's the worst thing in the world. But I am always just like, wouldn't you rather like feel these things so much more intensely than not at all? Like, I think that's such a positive thing. And while it is scary and while we maybe need to reframe that in our minds and the way that we feel about it, I think it's a really positive, it's a superpower, like that we can feel so deeply about certain things. I was going to say, in terms of my specific neurodivergence superpower, is more specifically tied to like those fixations or those special interests. I have like on repeat an annual fixation with the Titanic. So if you want to talk about the Titanic, let me know.
I did have a fixation.
Yeah. It's just like those little things. Like I know a lot. So I'd say that's my current superpower. Just like little random life things that happen, I really gravitate towards. So not that was little or random. That was quite a big moment in history, actually. But
I was going to say, I don't think I made it past when I realised the boat was sinking.
Oh,
I got too emotional. I had to like not. I couldn't watch it anymore. I was like, nah, I'm out.
no, okay, it's devastating. But like, if you watch a documentary of it under the sea or the ocean at the moment, oh my God, so fascinating.
I think there was a point when I was in high school. I did like full on research about it.
Yeah.
It was like an extensive research.
There's got to be a club out there or something that like Titanic enthusiasts or something. Not that you're like enthused about it happening, but just, you know, it's happened.
Yeah, no, wrong word.
We're not trying to replicate this in history.
There's a podcast called Girl Historians, and they talk about
girl stories.
Girl historians.
Oh, girl historians.
And they talk about the Titanic. It's really, they do it in a quite a funny way. I think they
Okay,
like it.
But did you watch Ocean Gate, the documentary?
No.
It's on Netflix.
She said she's the expert.
Yeah.
Okay, no, when I say expert, I'm just watching the same documentary over and over again annually. Like, I'm not exploring anything new.
You're just ringing the dopamine.
Yeah, I'm going back to my familiarity.
Yeah, true love.
I did help with World War II history.
Yeah,
I know, but it's more the fact that how it happened.
And it's so complicated.
Yeah.
There's so much.
So complicated. But this conversation reminds me, just one thing I want to preface, like, because we were things like your ADHD fixation. I can't stop ringing the dopamine out of certain things.
Yeah.
Like it will be, what TV series are you watching right now? I'm watching the same TV series I was watching when I was 10 years old.
No, stop. I'm watching Jane the Virgin every year repeatedly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was like, and I never get sick of it.
So true.
No,
Never.
Never get sick of it. And it's like the same with
What's
music.
your TV show?
So, oh, gosh, I don't want to say it on here.
I say it. Glee?
So, no.
I love Glee.
I've actually never watched, not to the extent. Dance Academy.
Oh, that's so good. No, that's not.
And that's like
a lot of people would relate to that.
Yeah.
Oh.
I got to say though, I think that is another like superpower thing. Like unlocking someone's like fixation is like it's like this sudden library of knowledge about specific things has been opened up. Or I've got specific things. Like I've got my like, you know, different universes and different fictional settings I love, but I also think it's sort of like the random trivia knowledge I tend to just passively accrue on my like Wikipedia benders. I'm almost weirdly grateful for, even though I can't control what information is retained, because my coworkers always joke I'll come out with a random fact, and then we always joke like Philomena Cunt, like the bit where she's like, in ancient Egypt, the most significant thing you could do in life was die. It's like I can just like we'll be talking about something and I'll be like, oh, did you know this, and this, and they're like, how do you know that? I think that's like so fulfilling. But when you have someone else explaining something they're passionate about in great detail. Like I've got a couple of friends who like will love a particular video game or love a particular series, and they'll be breaking it down for me. And obviously some people be like, oh, that's really annoying. But I feel privileged to be able to hear sort of the culmination of that passion. And they're trying so, you know, earnestly to convey that information to me in a way that, you know, will make me feel equally as passionate about it. And I think that's a really special thing. Yeah.
We are the best teammates on a quiz team.
100% for sure.
Okay, maybe we don't, maybe like certain categories, but just also those random like general knowledge facts. Pop me on your team.
But specifically Titanic?
Yeah. Honestly, I could list off a few, but yeah, if there's a quiz night out there that's Titanic themed, I'm gonna be there. Amazing. Well, that was a fun conversation. There's so many things that are important to talk about when it comes to neurodivergence. I think it's really important that we end on just maybe reflecting on one thing that we wish people better understood about neurodiversity. Because being neurodivergent, it doesn't mean being broken or you're weird. It's just we all have different experiences and our brains are all different, and the world needs all of those types of brains and that uniqueness. So what's one thing that we wish people knew about neurodiversity, or the biggest takeaway from this podcast?
I think one thing that I'm in it right now. This is what I'm like need to hear as well, is that it is such a broad banner and it is a spectrum, neurodiversity, and it is like we're finding out more information about it all the time and all these other things. There are people when they will say comments like everyone is a little bit neurodivergent or everyone is sort of things like that. And whether that's the case or not, that everyone has their quirks or not, I think the one thing for me that I just like to think of is everyone has their own lived experiences. If you are experiencing something that affects you so deeply that it is impacting your everyday life, then that is completely valid. And just because someone says, oh, everyone's just got a little bit, everyone has a personality, everyone can be who they are and things like that. But some people are affected more than others when it comes to things like that. And if it's impacting your daily life and all of those things, then don't feel like it's not valid if someone says that comment, because it is.
Yeah. I'm hearing that a lot, or that it's really like trendy to be autistic or ADHD. I don't think it's trendy at all. These are real disabilities that really impact people on their everyday life. And disability is also an interesting time on this space. Some people really gravitate towards resonating with neurodiversity as a disability. Some people don't. So take that as you personally respond to it. But yeah, when no one's just jumping on this bandwagon because they want attention. They're doing it because it affects their real everyday life and it impacts things that they're noticing that maybe other people aren't impacted by as much. So I very much
and jumping off of that from both of you again as well. I feel like even though things impact me, because of how highly I mask, I still feel like I'm not valid, and it's not like I don't deserve to have that clarity around like what's going on for me. And so I think even again for myself, like what you're saying, I think I myself and wish other people as well would know that it is a valid experience, like you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think piggybacking off what Beth said.
We're just piggybacking.
Yeah. What I usually tell people is it's fine to be different. Like you don't have to be the same as the next person.
Yeah.
Yes, in certain settings you do have to tone it down a bit, but just be yourself. Like I'm my own self. Like regardless of what setting I'm in, I tweak myself a bit, but otherwise it's just be yourself.
Yeah.
Don't change anything for anyone unless it's needed. But yeah.
I guess on the bandwagon conversation quickly before I say my point, I think the really thing that's kind of annoying about people talking about it like it's a trend is there is literal psychological and psychiatric like backing. Like it's like it is a diagnosable condition. And I think that's a really important thing to remember, because it's not like it's like, oh, I'm going to go to the trendy psychiatrist, get a trendy diagnosis so that I can hold this trendy piece of paper. It's not like that at all. And it's usually you're seeing someone because it's impacting your life in some way, shape or form. And you're looking to understand yourself better. But I guess my final point on the sort of final question is, and it might sound a bit broad, but compassion doesn't require relation or or understanding of someone else's experience. You can be compassionate without getting it. for lack of a better term. Like, sure, some people are going to put sock, shoe on, but it's not actually that big a deal if someone wants to put sock, shoe, and you don't have to be like, why do you put sock, shoe? What's the problem? You should be putting sock, shoe. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to be able to relate to someone wanting to put sock, shoe on to respect that they just got to put sock, shoe on, even if you're sock, shoe. That's the best way I can think to explain it. But it's sort of like, you don't have to get it. You can still be compassionate about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's the perfect metaphor to end this episode and to leave people with. Beth's lost it. She's going to go home and be like, what do I do? Do I do sock, shoe?
Oh, no.
Very tough.
I've never thought of that metaphor before. I'm just like, my mind is blown. Thank you.
No. We have talked about some really great things, and I thank all of you for sharing your very vulnerable personal experiences or the experiences of others that you've noticed in your life. There are so many amazing resources out there that will be listed, and we'll list our favorites in the show notes. So if you are interested in exploring this topic a little bit further, or you're neurodivergent yourself and you want to maybe access some tools or resources to support you in your everyday life, we will have those listed in our show notes. So please refer to them if needed. As always, if this episode has brought up anything for you and you would like to chat to somebody, we also list some amazing helplines and support services in our show notes as well. So please utilize them. Or come and speak to somebody at Headspace. If you want to know a bit more about Headspace, we've got a whole first episode on everything that we do and the amazing services that we offer. So thank you guys so much for this incredible episode. We're really excited for part 2 of this episode, which will be with a clinical educator on neurodiversity, a bit more of a Q&A style. So if you have any questions that you are interested in having the answer to by somebody in this profession, pop them in the comments or send us a DM, and we will pop them on our notes to ask our very educated professional. More to come on that. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you very, very soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.